Is this you? You've been raised by the clout-obsessed psyop known as the internet, and desperately yearn to become a full-time content creator. So you seek wisdom from those whom the algorithm gods have favored.
Hey girlies! First, I just want to say thank you so much for selling out my baby thong line, all ethically manufactured in Guantanamo. Now, I always get asked, what are the secrets to making it as a content creator? First, just be engaging, like be funny, have a personality, just like be interesting, but also be yourself. Second, become a brand. Like take who you are and then make it a brand, because the best way to become a brand is by becoming a brand. Also, the first 30 seconds of any video are crucial, so make sure you grab the viewer's attention. Just maybe whip out a tit or something. JK, don't do that. That's how I got banned from Club Penguin Live. Just remember, you can make it. Manifest it and it will happen. I'm here to teach you how to make fat stacks. My foreplay is gently caressing my heart locket of Gary Vee. I inhale creatine through my urethra. First, you have to get an audience. I'm not gonna tell you how. Then maintain that audience. Next, you milk the money out of those fatherless chodes. Then build multiple streams of income from said money. It's really that simple. I have 30 vaguely brown little people farming Bitcoin in my basement as I speak. If you want to learn how to be a rich, big goblin like me, buy into my pyramid scheme for monthly payments of only $2,572. If you aspire to make content full-time, are currently struggling as a creator, or are just curious to the inner workings of this world, you need to watch this. Listen, babe, I am not going to bullshit you. I'm not going to give you false hope and tell you that if you follow these 10 easy steps, you'll be making millions and rejecting FaceTime requests from Michael B. Jordan in no time. I'm not selling any course. If I were, I'd be lounging on a yacht with two big titty broads next to me, holding a fat wad of cash that's actually late child support, telling you how I made millions in passive income while the Brazilian broad feeds me grapes like I'm an inbred pharaoh. Nor am I going to try and dissuade you or convince you that your dreams are entirely unachievable. I'm just going to be honest about the reality of being a content creator, revealing information that nobody else is being transparent about. But what even are my credentials? During my illustrious career as a dummy thick and effortlessly sensual internet personality, I have cultivated over 1.4 million followers on TikTok and over 280K on Instagram. I've made over 6 figures from social media. I pitched a show to NBC Universal this year. I'm a GIF too, weirdly enough. Across all of my platforms, I have amassed around 100 million views. I was voted Tampa's sexiest non-MILF and Instagram's most sus light skin of the month. The last 2 aren't true, but God, I wish they were. Those are all stats that EMTs in Beverly Hills ask you before they decide whether you're worthy of administering medical care to. Let's just jump into the juiciest bit. Part 1. Money. This is me trying to look rich. I look like the Unabomber if he was from Martha's Vineyard. I'm getting off track. What do you think the average salary of a content creator is? You're wrong. It's around $44,192. If you got that right, tough, you don't get a prize. Other sources put the figure between $36,715 and $46,101, but generally most sources will give you a figure in this ballpark. Realistically, if you even manage to gain a following, you will most likely be part of this entertainment middle class. Compare this to the average individual US salary, which is around $59,428. This means that the average content creator is not making that much more than the average American. Only around 10% even make over 6 figures annually. Those making millions is 1% of that 10%. Now, these stats are already skewed because they don't even include the sheer number of lower-level content creators that are making no income, as a lot of social media platforms require a user to surpass a certain threshold of engagement to even be eligible for monetization, or are making so little that it barely counts as income. According to a 2022 creator report provided by Linktree, there are approximately 200 million creators globally, which they define as people who are actually monetizing their content or at least are attempting to. They interviewed a sample size of 9,500 people and found that only 12% of creators who are full-time made over $50,000 annually, and 46% made less than $1,000, which means that roughly $44,000 salary that gets reported so often is probably much lower in real life. Now let me be clear, being able to make income from my passion is a huge privilege. The reason that I am harping on these figures is because nobody talks about this. So much of the content surrounding making money online is top 1% creators posting about how they're making $50K a month, overselling how financially lucrative the industry is on average, based purely on anecdotal or outlier experiences, usually for the purposes of selling some sham course or bolstering their own social media growth channels. And if they're trying to teach you how to monetize your content, they rarely disclose how little the average profit actually is, at least initially. I had to find this out the hard way. I've never shared this story before because I like to be an enigma, and yes, I can say that word because I am Black. But the first year that I filed my own taxes, this is after I'd gone semi-viral, despite raking in millions of views and getting tons of engagement, I was so broke that I didn't even qualify to pay federal income tax. Do you know what it's like to contact your accountant and ask, "So, what do I owe Big Daddy Uncle Sam?"
"Oh, you didn't hear, sweetie? You're poor. Are you calling me from a phone booth, you brokey? I can smell the store brand coffee on your breath. Popeyes is hiring."
Now, some of you might be thinking, why didn't you monetize your content? Why didn't you get on the TikTok Creator Fund and secure brand partnerships? Why didn't you maintain a consistent upload schedule, making sure that each video was on brand with the sort of humor that your audience was accustomed to? Why didn't you start a Patreon or perhaps begin uploading weekly to YouTube, creating a wide array of videos that were a mix of evergreen and trending topics with engaging thumbnails and titles that stayed true to your brand, and then cross-promoting all of that content on all of your other social media platforms? I did all of those things. Now, I was fortunately able to turn things around after I got with a manager and all of the insider resources that they had access to. They reached out to me since I already had a following. I don't know how you would get one that is legit without already proving that you're marketable. I'm sorry, this entire industry is a Kafka-esque catch-22. Despite this depressing reality, you would have never guessed it by looking at my page. Worse yet, the number one thing that acquaintances would remark after they discovered that I had a following was, "Oh wow, you must be making like so much money." I want you to guess how much you think I made from the Creator Fund. I'm talking over 35 million views with fantastic engagement. Guess how much TikTok paid me? That's right. $272. Now compare that to a YouTube video I made that has around 42,000 views, which made me $228. This is why YouTube is the better investment. Now, this amount of money is not nothing. It's groceries for the week, it's utilities, it's like 3.5 life-size cardboard cutouts of Shaq. But considering the sheer amount of views and engagement I and other creators were bringing to the app, this was a ripoff. And that was back in 2021. It's worse now. Heads up, most of these platforms do not care about the creators that made them relevant. Take the Bonus Reels program, which was the Instagram equivalent of the Creator Fund, but more profitable. Tragically, this milk curd discontinued it, with no warning and no immediate replacement. There were mutuals of mine and many others that relied on this income to pay rent. And just like that, gone. Sorry, figure it out. Unfortunately, even if someone has the luxury of monetizing their content, there is no guarantee that that specific program won't get discontinued, or that the money from it will remain consistent. By the time I was even able to make any money off of bonuses in 2022, the revenue from that program had already decreased as much as 70% compared to the previous year. Now what about brand partnerships, where the real dinero is? If you are not even getting enough traction to be able to monetize your short form, realistically, you're not going to be able to secure a brand partnership, since they're not going to consider you to be a profitable investment. But even if one manages that, one has to be in the top 10% to get thousands per sponsored post. 53% of creators earned less than $250 a month from brand partnerships. Let's look back at the 2022 Linktree study. The majority of those surveyed had not engaged in any brand deals at all. And even among those who had, the majority took home less than $100 per paid post. Before I had a manager, despite getting great numbers, the only brand partnership opportunities that I got paid at best several $100s, and even then they were few and far between. Again, money is still money, and I was grateful to be making anything. However, this is not enough money to subsist off of, especially considering the surprising amount of time and effort that goes into making content on a consistent basis. Fame is the most democratized that it's ever been. And I've heard people online say, oh, it's so much easier to make money online now than ever before. Oh, there's so many avenues and blah, 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 blah. And once again, it is usually people who are trying to sell you something. Remember that the oversaturation of the growing social media middle class will only serve to devalue the worth of having followers and views. Going viral already doesn't mean much, and the criteria required to be in the top 10% will become even more rigid. You can't look to unicorn creators where the second video that they ever made went crazy viral, and by the end of the year they were stacking fat checks and getting their toes sucked on a yacht. It took almost a year after I blew up before I was making decent money. And I was fortunate enough to have no debt, no dependence, and a financial safety net from my family. And I was uploading videos to YouTube even prior to getting any traction on TikTok. So technically, it took over 3 years before my social media was profitable. Which is why the advice of uploading consistently for months, more often years, is not financially feasible for most. I am not telling you all of this to try and convince you to quit, but rather to inform you of the financial reality that you will likely be facing. And if you plan on pursuing this, you need to be comfortable with the struggle period being longer than you'd like it to be. Part 2. The harsh objective truth. Most of you will fail. Most who are able to gain some traction will not be able to maintain it. Of those who maintain it, most will not make a considerable income off said content. Of those who manage to do so, many will eventually burn out, fall off, be mired in controversy, or eventually quit. And that is fine. Not being famous online is not a character deficit. So often you hear the question, how do you succeed as a content creator? Here's a better question. Why do you even want to make content online? Be brutally honest with yourself, okay? Especially if you're a young person, because y'all are the demographic that is fighting the hardest to suckle from the clout teat. Why do you want to do this? Is it just because you think it's kind of cool and you want to be rich and famous? Is it just because you want to have thousands of people commenting, you're so hot, you make me giggle? I want to be you. I want you to dog walk me. Look, it's okay, all right? I'm not judging you. We've all been funnel fed this image of virtual opulence for years. And I'm including most people actively pursuing this as a career. Simply like the idea of being a content creator. It's similar to when people say, oh, I'd love to be an actor. You know how people talk? They usually mean they just like the idea of getting paid millions and looking hot and moisturized on red carpets, getting showered in awards, and having hairless groupies sit on their laps and whisper in their ear, "You were so sexy in Gilbert Grape." They don't actually mean that they want the mundane reality of the job, because this is still a job. It's a luxury gig, don't get me wrong, but it is still a job. It's not actually a passion of theirs, and without that inner drive, there is going to be nothing keeping them grinding when things don't work out immediately, let alone allow them to remain consistent if they do eventually end up succeeding. Secondly, I don't care if this makes me sound like a but many will fail because they are not particularly talented in the niche they're trying to make content in. Have you ever ventured into the comment sections on those videos that are telling people how to quickly grow their audience? You ever click on a lot of those commenters' channels? They're usually not very good. There is the possibility that they evolve and the quality of their channel improves. I'm not saying mine is perfect, but let's be real, okay? Take the caps off. We both know that most of them won't. Listen, you don't have to be the most talented, charismatic, or technically gifted individual, but there has to be something there for the audience to latch on to. The exceptions are people who are very attractive and limber, who still had to be blessed by the algorithm gods, or lol cows and shock jocks who only have an audience because wanting to observe a freak show up close and personal is a fundamental component of our species. Now, be honest with yourself. Is your content any good? If you were a complete stranger, would you enjoy your content? Not just click on it, but thoroughly enjoy it. Be honest. If your answer is no, there is a chance that making content is just not for you. I am not saying that you're talentless, it's just that sometimes skills in real life do not transfer into making videos online. It is also possible that you are not playing to your strengths or haven't honed your skills enough. The biggest reason I was able to garner an audience was because I knew my strengths were absurdist comedy and storytelling, and my overly verbose delivery and enunciation. I enjoy makeup and beauty products. However, if I was trying to make complicated and intricate makeup tutorials, I would suck. I would have y'all looking like a Reno hooker, and not one of the classy ones that still has all her teeth. But it took me years to cultivate this specific comedic voice and delivery. It was through doing speech and debate in high school, writing and directing an absurdist short film, creating comedic videos on YouTube, and performing stand-up. I was able to replicate the success of my first TikTok that blew up because I was already accustomed to that style of writing and performing, as I had years of experience perfecting it. It might have taken me 3 years to start making money on social media, but it took me almost 10 years in total to even be any good at what I do. I'm not saying that my style is going to be enjoyed by all people, but I know that it will be enjoyed by enough people. Now, unfortunately, exhibiting a baseline level of talent or even excellence is not a guarantee of success. We do not live in a meritocracy. Which brings me to part 3. The epidemic of high cheekboned mediocrity. Now, when I say that these individuals are mediocre or talentless, I don't mean that as an insult. I mean that as an observation. That is not to say that these people have no work ethic or that they will never be able to evolve into more competent artists. But the truth of the matter is that they are not particularly good, let alone excellent, at the things that they are famous for. Now, mind you, I do not blame them for taking that golden ticket of virality and running with it. At 15, I would have too. Of course, they're taking the opportunity to act in terrible shows and make what is technically music. Not everyone is capable of creating O.J. Simpson is Innocent, the song of the summer. Link on screen. I used to get frustrated at the success of these individuals, especially compared to the infinitely more talented and hardworking creators online. But as I get older and I take the lens of resentment and envy off, I kind of feel bad for some of them. These young people, especially the sweet and naive ones, get chewed up and spit out by LA. I mean, look at the amount of teeny bop types that have come and go through the years. Let us take a moment to remember those we have lost. In the arms of the angels, fly away with me on a The hype house should have just consisted of them snorting lines at One Oak. As sad as it is, in a few years, a lot of them are going to be live streaming as they're wheeled into the Betty Ford clinic. And then comes the obligatory "Kumbaya, my lord." It's always at one of those weird LA churches where the pastor is ripped and wears those long-ass V-neck tees. His tit is just making a guest appearance the entire sermon. There's a higher power present in that space, all right. And it ain't God, it's the IRS. Whenever I see people try to emulate these creators' careers, it just reminds me of when a terrible rapper gets a record deal. Like, Lil Pipsqueak just signed a record deal for 10 million buckaroonios. After his smash hit, I Tried to Kill My Stepdad, Gang Gang Remix, went #1 on Billboard. And then people complain, oh, what has this world come to? Dude, he's gonna be living in a Motel 6 in 5 years. They can maybe delay it another year if they chill out with the gaudy jewelry. Seriously, what are you, a Persian arms dealer? And a lot of these hype house kids are gonna be in the same exact boat considering how predatory some of those contracts are. And even if they do manage to hold on to their coin, the truth of the entertainment industry, especially in social media, is that eventually everybody becomes a flop. Part IV. We all flop down here. So, why did I call myself a flop in the title of this video, besides clickbait? Well, I am flopping at the moment. My tickety talk is the worst it's ever been doing. Truth be told, I don't see her coming back. My Instagram is doing fairly well, but it's also not profitable at the moment. Thanks again, Zuckboy. I am currently at a very low point in my career. I mean, still living, like a safe, good life, which I do not take for granted, especially especially in these times. My goal when I initially started to post online was always to be a YouTuber, and I am thankful to TikTok for allowing me to get my little light-skinned foot in the door. But since followers from short form usually don't follow over onto long-form platforms, I've had to build this from the ground up. I have been grinding, posting weekly for the past few months, now made easier now that I have my lovely new editor. If you hear clanking in the background, it's just her trying to get out of her chains. You can call it delusion, and the fact that I have a good foundation helps, but I know I will make it. It's just taking longer than expected. And if I fall flat on my bespectacled face and I am dead wrong and I flop even harder, I will be okay. If you don't end up making it, you will be okay. It'll be painful at first, but eventually we will find peace in knowing that we gave it our all and it just wasn't meant to be. And hey, another passion might be around the corner, like maybe blowing up pipelines. I was half joking. Thank you for watching. If you are curious about the specifics of how I went viral and the bizarre dystopian reality of posting content online, here is a video I made about that experience. Join my Patreon. Join my Patreon. Join my Patreon. Thank you to all my top patrons. You're all so delicious. Thank you to my other lovely patrons. Wow, you're still here. Huh. Guess you don't have somewhere to be? Okay. Bye.